Joe, your knowledge of music is really off the chains, man.
No, not mine. My dad, John.
Both of you guys.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm only a shadow of what my dad's got as far as a wealth of knowledge on music.
Well, we're contemporaries. I'm 50, so.
Right on.
La da 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 da.
So let me ask you this. Do you remember when Joe Perry proved that he had the biggest balls in music by trying to replace Steven Tyler and then still call it Aerosmith? Seriously. He has said that he's going into rehab, and when he comes back, he wants to be in Aerosmith and continue on as a singer. Joe Perry...
Doesn't he have to have a couple of operations?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the problem is he's having operations and he's in rehab because there's so much pain he's in or whatever, because he dances around, does his thing, so he's got all this pain, all these operations that cause even more pain, and so they're gonna be doping him, and then they have to control the doping, so he doesn't dope himself.
Yeah.
Now,
right.
I think I'm okay with Joe Perry doing what he's doing.
I think Joe Perry should be slapped in the face. Joe Perry.
See, I know you said that, but I'm okay with him continuing.
No. See, to me, Joe Perry's he's okay. Joe Perry is to music what Jay Leno is to TV programming. I just think it's a wrong move.
But do you think, did Joe Perry go up to Tyler and say, "You're not coming back ever"? Or did he say, "I'd like to continue, and then you can come back when you're ready"?
Yeah, he did say that, but it's going to be like a year and a half or 2 years. And I'll tell you this:
well, why would you stay off the road for 2 years, though?
Out of respect.
So you're going to the Led Zeppelin thing. John Bonham passed away. We're done.
Out of respect, that's what they said. We can't carry on without John Bonham. He was as much of a band, as much of this band as anybody else. So they stopped. That was it. They didn't do anything. Aerosmith would not be anything if not for Steven Tyler.
I think that they could still continue if they wanted to.
With a new lead singer.
With a new lead singer for a period of time, as long as the original lead singer has the right to come back when he's ready. And as long as Steven Tyler says, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do it.
I will tell you one thing. This is just something that I read the other day. Aerosmith has made more money off of Guitar Hero than they have over the past, 30, 40 years?
I think what it boiled down to is that release has sold more product than all the other releases. Not if you add everything together, if you add everything they've ever put out, Guitar Hero didn't overdo that, but it did outsell any other release they've ever done. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was going to say, as far as continuing on, let's make the comparison to the Rolling Stones. Do you think that if Mick Jagger left the band, that they could keep going on with Keith Richards getting a new lead singer?
At this point in their career, no. 20, 30 years ago, maybe. Brian Jones died in the swimming pool. They got Mick Taylor, who was with John Mayall's Blues Breakers. And then after that, they got Ronnie Wood.
We're talking frontmen here.
Yeah, right.
Face of the band.
Yeah, and
what voice?
Okay, all right. So the Stones broke during the British invasion.
But should the Stones even be playing right now?
No.
I mean, I really like the Stones. I love their portfolio of music, but I think it's gradually got a little bit worse and worse and worse. And personally, I'm not sure I want to go see 60 to 70-year-old men up there performing songs that they did so well.
I'll tell you what. If the Rolling Stones had any brains whatsoever amongst all of them that still could fire off and come up with new ideas, what they would do is they get with MTV or they get with VH1, and they would do a version of Unplugged. I've got all these DVDs of Rolling Stone concerts, and prior to the tour, you always see them rehearse in the studio. And I'll tell you what, when they're all sitting down and Mick Jagger isn't running marathons, he can still kind of sing really well, and he can control his voice, he can control his breathing. When he's on stage, he has to run around and jump because they expect him to dance, and he just can't do it. His breathing just won't go along with the singing. If you get the Rolling Stones right now, and you got to do it soon, get them all to sit down, you get a full choir, you get a full orchestra. Imagine a proper way of hearing You Can't Always Get What You Want. Even though they're older now, but if you have a full choir, a full orchestra, I think that'd be great.
You've got the backup for them. You've got the backup to help them.
Right, and I think if they did that in an environment where Mick Jagger and everybody else didn't have to run around and do a bunch of dancing, they could just chill out and just be very relaxed. People are, it's great to see the Stones because it's wild because, they're jumping around and there's all these pyrotechnics and these big giant screens.
Buy-in is the correct term, too, because you could see the Stones for $10 or $15 when I was young, and now it's $150 to $200.
If you think about it, the only thing that Joe Perry wants to do is tour. Because if Joe Perry wanted to actually do what Joe Perry used to do, which is write music, all right, instead of having other people do it for you, if he really wanted to just write music and continue the band's forward progression, maybe he could say, hey, Steven, I'm going to start writing some stuff. I'll send it to you. I'll email you an MP3, and then we can slowly and gradually come up with a really good album, and that would stand out much better than what they got now. Billy Idol is the current contender to be the lead singer of Aerosmith.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
Lenny Kravitz was up there
But
for a while.
he said, what did he say? You know what he said? You going to say what he said? Or you want me to say what he
No,
said?
go ahead. Say what he said.
Didn't Lenny Kravitz say, "Look, it's a great honor, but no one should be doing this with Steven Tyler"?
That's what he said.
And I pat him on
And
the back
and you
for
have
that.
to admire that, but I still don't think that you can stop a band from moving on. Okay, we've talked about lead singers. We know the Who. Keith Moon passed away. They kept going.
John Entwistle passed
John
away.
Entwistle
They
passed
keep
away.
going.
They keep going. But I think that Joe Perry has the opportunity to keep going. I'm not saying it's going to be as good or better or worse, but he has that opportunity. He's a co-writer on a lot of the songs. So he's as much of that band as Steven Tyler. So I think he should have a voice.
So don't be Aerosmith.
Joe Perry has tried to not be Aerosmith, and it doesn't work. In every Aerosmith concert, I've seen Aerosmith, twice with you, Dad, and that's that one moment where both of us will say expletives at the same time because it's like Steven tells, "Hey, here comes one from Joe Perry," and everyone's like, "Oh."
I don't disagree with that.
Everybody hits the John, everybody gets a beer during that moment because it's ridiculous. I paid money to see Aerosmith, not Joe Perry trying to be like, "Hey guys, look at my chest, it's so exposed." he's like Wrath of Khan. He's always got his chest out.
Where would Aerosmith be without Joe Perry?
Wait. I don't think Joe Perry is Aerosmith more than Steven Tyler.
I didn't say he was, but he's a part of it.
He's a big part of it, and I would probably...
Which gives him the opportunity to move on a little bit while Steven Tyler's incapacitated.
So then do me a favor and don't call it Aerosmith.
I agree.
Call it something else.
Is he going to call it Aerosmith?
Yeah, he is.
Could Simon and Garfunkel go on as Simon and Garfunkel without Simon?
No. Okay, I get what you're trying to say, but when they split, Paul Simon essentially is Simon and Garfunkel. I don't care what people say about Garfunkel and his guitar talents and whatnot. Really,
his voice. Garfunkel had a decent voice.
All he did was like yodel in the background. I mean, he's like the lead singer of Radiohead, just yodeling.
And they wrote some of the most amazing songs you could ever listen to, I think.
You know what? I've got. I don't have much. All I have is the essential Simon and Garfunkel. My wife absolutely hates it, but if I'm by myself and I'm maybe cleaning the house or something, I'll put that on, man. I just feel so euphoric. I mean, I'm so into it, and I think it's really great. I think it's cool that lately, in the last 10 years, those two have gotten together and done, little kind of impromptu concerts, and I've checked them out on YouTube. It's decent.
I think it's great that we've got all the diversity in music that we have. I mean, it's great. You can go from Aerosmith, Simon and Garfunkel, and all the music is good in its own right.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying, and you can even, like we're doing right now, have a conversation where, like you said, you bounce from one to the other, and yet the conversation is still on track, I guess, and you're just showing how diversified it is, and how, there are cases where you can, honestly, redo the lead singer, like if you're forced to. For example, AC/DC had no choice, all right, and they got real lucky. They did, because,
They got real lucky.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, all right. Well,
Van Halen kind of lucked out.
Oh, stop it, Van
Halen.
Yeah.
With Extreme Singer?
No, Gary Sharon. No, Van Halen. I think Van Halen were tremendous for their time when they were out. I think they were really, really good for their time, and then I think they became kind of a joke. And when I think of Van Halen now, I kind of think of them as kind of a joke band more than anything else. And I think that started the second they brought in Gary Sharon.
Well, I think some of that has to do with, like, if you look at Keith Richards, and we know he's had his battles with stuff, but we still respect him. When you look at Eddie Van Halen, he's had his battles too. I don't think he gets the same respect as the Keith Richards does.
Well, that's because Eddie Van Halen used to play with his back to the audience so nobody could figure out his solos. How pretentious is that? I mean, really. I think it's pretentious. And the fact one day I opened up a Rolling Stone magazine. Do you know what I saw? I saw Converse with the pattern just like Eddie Van Halen's guitar.
I was reading an interview with Keith Richards recently in a magazine, and in the interview, Keith Richards intimated that kids should not do drugs. Keith Richards says that kids should not do drugs. Keith, we can't do any more drugs because you already did them all right? There's none left. We have to wait till you die and smoke your ashes. Jesus Christ. Talk about the pot and the kettle.
Generation landslide, close the gap between them and that